The media has become completely obsessed with masks. And we've seen their hypocrisy surrounding this, with them taking them on and off, sometimes off camera, and harassing President Trump, and even encouraging Americans to harass one another.
The mask really bothers me in a civil libertarian's perspective and also as a scientist because they're so completely without merit. So first of all, the masks that are being worn, like a surgical mask or a bandana, does nothing to keep out a virus, especially this particular virus, which is incredibly small. It's about 0.1 microns. That's 1,000th the size of a hair. It's just ludicrous to pretend that this little, tissue cloth covering makes any difference. Completely irrelevant. The other thing that it's doing is it's causing our neighbors, our friends, flight attendants to become the mask police or the health police. This has to stop. This is against civil liberties. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is 0.1 microns. That's 1/1000th of a hair. It's 50 times smaller than a bacteria. There's no chance, no serious scientist feels that this keeps out this SARS-CoV-2 virus. I like to empower the American people. Do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search and type in surgical mask and read any scientific journal before March of 2020. There was never any pretense that this would keep out a SARS-CoV-2 virus or virus of 0.1 micron in size. You can find videos of air escaping around masks, colored air like from vaping. You can watch our 20-minute educational session that we just did on masks. The masks simply do not work. And when there's no science behind it, you then have to wonder about the harm it's doing to our civil liberties and the harm from citizen to citizen, neighbor to neighbor. Flight attendants are being turned into the mask police. People will rat you out. This is really a huge problem for America.
And I've heard people use analogies like, it's like trying to prevent mosquitoes with a chain link fence, things like this. Are these analogies kind of accurate? Is that sort of the difference? Is it even protecting people at all? Or what kind of would a good analogy look like?
Yeah, so I used to say it's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence, but I think a better analogy is like if you throw a bunch of sand at a chain link fence, it doesn't keep out any of the sand. Viruses there's billions of them. If a person has COVID-19, there's billions of RNA viruses coming out all the time. The mask might, by coincidence, block a few of them, like the way a chain link fence might block a few grains of sand, but the vast majority of sand is going to get right through. It's just like that. The most important thing a human being can do is have a good, healthy immune system. Part of doing that is eating well, socializing, have a good, mental health attitude, physical exercise, eating well, not having a vitamin D deficiency, taking care of oneself. If you have serious comorbid conditions such as obesity, diabetes, or very advanced age, there's other things you can do. You can be on hydroxychloroquine prophylactic, quercetin. There's also early treatment, so people don't have to live in deathly fear of this. There's a lot that we can do. Masks is not one of them.
I've heard people speculate that the masks are sort of a way of controlling people. Do you see any validity to that, or what's really driving this mask narrative?
Right. So I have no doubt that it's about control and not at all about stopping illness. First of all, they don't work to stop illness. But if you wanted to do things to stop illness, there's a lot of things you could do. For example, the plastic face shields actually work better than a cloth or a bandana. But for example, the airlines are not interested in allowing you to wear a plastic shield. I believe it's because with a face shield, you can actually see people's expressions. You can actually still interact with them as human beings. But the mask is actually covering people's expressions, covering people's humanity. I think this is tremendous evidence of control. Also, somebody who's already immune. Why are they in a mask? Why aren't they mask exempt? Of course, President Trump doesn't need to wear a mask. He's already probably has antibodies. There's no question this has to do with control. If you want to reduce the amount of illness out there, everyone could be on hydroxychloroquine or everybody could be on quercetin. That's obviously not the goal. The goal is definitely control.
Yeah. It's terrifying to consider. Like, why are they doing this? What's sort of the driving agenda?
May I say something else about that? The reason people say, well, they can't imagine a lie this big or a lie this massive, like what are they trying to gain or control? I think that it's keeping people miserable. And I think when you keep people miserable, they're a lot more malleable, easier, more compliant, easier to control. If you've ever been in a communist country, people are miserable. They're looking down, they're covered, they're looking straight ahead, right? They don't want people to see them. They don't want to interact. They don't want to get into trouble. That's where we're going with this. You're wearing a mask, you're covering, you're looking down, you're not interacting with your friends and your neighbors, you're not having pleasant conversations. This is the kind of government control that you see in communist and socialist countries.
All of a sudden, we are living in a country where other people's health is now my responsibility, which is a form of communism when you think about it.
We live in a country that says you're obligated to yourself. The other people you're obligated to is if there's a relationship, like a parent is obligated to a child, a physician is obligated to their patient, a lawyer is obligated to their client. But if you start making everybody obligated to somebody else, you have set yourself down on a very dangerous socialist path. I see if you're wearing the mask to protect other people, it's a very short leap from there to give me your kidney. You've got two. Mine don't work. Give me one. I don't see how you can meaningfully draw the line. You need to take care of yourself. I need to take care of myself. People who are frail and vulnerable, they need to take care of themselves, especially well with doctors' help. There's a lot we can do to help you, but be very cautious about people in power telling you to do things for other people. I can assure you, they're not donating their kidney to you.
Recently, the CDC came out with this updated data about the masks, about, a vast majority of people that wear masks frequently or almost all the time are now testing positive more frequently than people who claim to never wear a mask. What's sort of the reason behind that?
Yeah, so I just can emphasize over and over, the masks are completely irrelevant for stopping this illness. We have all the data in the world. To me, the question's even baffling. The masks don't work. They don't do anything other than possibly reduce people's fear, which I actually think is exacerbating people's fear. So it's not surprising that people who come down with COVID-19 actually were mostly wearing masks. I think there's no correlation whatsoever. I think they were mostly wearing masks because most people are wearing masks. There's also a lot of virus that's actually caught on the mask. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you're touching all over. But overwhelmingly, people are wearing masks, and some people come down with the virus. The most important thing, though, Maggie, is that most people recover just fine from this.
The World Health Organization has come out and now said that they are recommending against these shutdowns as a primary method for containing the virus or controlling the virus. So I guess why is it that we're still seeing, leaders of Democrat states as well as other countries in Europe are now preparing to go back into shutdown? Why are they not following this recommendation?
Right. So I just think this is a complete failure of leadership. You do have individual governors of individual states that are trying their hardest not to comply. Governor Kristi Noem, South Dakota, is doing what's best for her state, which is having an open state. Sweden, of course, didn't close. I think it's a failure of leadership to not open your state. We heard today from Dr. Urso was talking about the numbers, and it's not a pandemic anymore. It's a case-demic. We're testing so many people, and the tests are so overly sensitive that the numbers look very high. But the only number that's worth tracking at all, and it's still not accurate, but the only one worth tracking at all is death rate. The death rates are not high, right? It's just the case numbers or the positive test result numbers, and the positive tests are very overly sensitive. They're capturing way more people than are actually sick. Unfortunately, it seems like political leaders are listening to the numbers. This is wrong. I know as a physician, you look at the patient, you see, does the patient have any problems? Does the patient have symptoms? I don't care so much if the test is positive. I care how the patient's doing. And I wish the politicians would do the same thing.
Boom. Okay. Amazing. And cut.